Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. It really helps me out if you like, comment, subscribe, and if you would consider purchasing from one of my sponsors in the description. Thanks a bunch. Today's episode is brought to you by Roll-Tru scale models, specifically their 40-foot containers from their iron line, which is designed to give you the most detail possible without breaking the bank. The containers are available in all of your favorite shipping lines and feature printing on all sides that is crisp and detailed, including the sides, the doors, and occasionally even the tops if the container company normally has that. The containers include a removable bottom just in case you want to add weight or even add cargo. It's up to you. And they have carefully placed and correctly sized pins and pinholes on the top for accurate stacking. These containers are also available at a lower price without livery for all of your diorama needs. Please see the link in my description for information on how to purchase and for a coupon that will give you 10% off. Okie dokie everyone, today I am going to discuss these new, I think they're reissues from Walthers, and specifically their Bud Corrugated Amtrak releases, which were put out in 2022. For those of you who might be new to model railroading, Walthers is one of the big names, particularly if you do American lines, and these are part of the Walthers Mainline series. Walthers Mainline are designed for the budget modeler, or at least the one who doesn't need a lot of detail, and generally they actually look pretty good, but they are not as detailed or feature-rich as the Proto line, which is the top of the line, and they often have things like detailed underbodies and lit interiors, that kind of thing. And the last series that they produce are Walthers Train line, and generally those are for beginning modelers, and you get everything, including the locomotive and cars, and even... As far as getting into these and unboxing them, I actually collected these over, I don't know, about a 4 or 5 month period. They were all sort of supposed to come out around the same time, but I think it was about a half a year. And I pre-ordered mine, and they came in from Walthers, so let's go ahead and get this open. Let's go ahead and cut into the observation car first, and this will be very typical of Walthers Mainline. There will be a separate lighting kit that you can purchase, and there'll be separate grab iron kit and detail kits that you can also purchase. Usually I'm not super worried about those sorts of things, and you can get separate wire if you don't want to bend your own grab irons, but they offer those, and they're not too difficult to install. You do have to remove the roof, but that's not too terrible, I promise. And I'll actually do one of these on a video one of these days. All right, let's go ahead and get the observation car. Actually, first I forgot that there'll be a decal set that comes with all of them because these are going to be unnumbered. But it's sort of nice. You can just take a look at the corresponding model number and put on the decals that you want. I usually don't bother with this sort of thing. Number one, I just sort of hate decals, to be honest with you. I just sort of hate the whole concept. And unless I really have to, I won't actually put them on. The consist that I ordered was a phase 1 consist. And oddly, the reason I did it is actually like the arrows that are on here. Hey, I'm an archer, so it makes sense, right? So there we go, this is the observation car, and it's nice. It even has the little plaque in the back, very cool. Now the nice thing is there are some details that are included standard with Mainline, and interiors are generally one of them. So it's sort of hard to complain about that. That's really cool. If you look in there, again, it's single colored plastic, but for the price point these are, which is anywhere from around $35 to $44, that's not too bad. I think the passenger cars should come standard with interiors, and certainly higher ones should come with lit interiors. Now these use Talgo trucks, means the coupler is attached directly to an arm on the truck. A lot of people don't like these. I understand why. I don't think they're as reliable, and when you're backing up, they're not as good. They do have sprung buffers though at the end, which I think is pretty neat, so they didn't skimp too much there. And if you look, I think things look pretty nice. And I don't know if you got a chance to see the underside, but I'll show you one here on another car. But the undersides on Walthers Mainline definitely, I don't want to say suffer because that's probably not a good way to do it, but they're definitely not as detailed as Rapido and the Walthers Proto line. But frankly, to me, I never see the underside because I don't sit underneath the tracks and watch the train go over me. Even in real life, I don't do that, although some days I kind of feel like doing that. But either way, here's the dome. I actually purchased 3 domes. I like domes, and this is just the standard dome. And I think in an earlier run, they offered the Sooper dome or the full-length dome. I can tell just by holding on to this one that this one's going to be the heaviest, but again, it has interiors, and that's both in the main level and in the upper level, so that's pretty nice, right? And if you look, the paint jobs on Walthers Mainline, I think, are pretty good. Everything's pretty crisp. The silver is nice and even. I've actually never had too many complaints about Walthers Mainline. I think they look pretty decent. Here we go, if you want to get another look at it. And there's no, droppable gangplank or anything like that. So I got 3 of these domes. I guess you don't need to see all 3 of them in detail, so they're exactly the same. And again, if you wanted to distinguish them, then you would use the decals to do so. But that was just the last box. That was just the last box to get here, and it got here yesterday. Along at the same time, I got my Happy Meals. So let's look at the other ones I've been sitting around for a while. And this is the long window coach. So I think I've got all of these. I don't know if there was a separate baggage coach that came out with this set, but I know there's one in the past. But either way, here's the long window coach. And again, here's the bottom. And these are all Talgo truck like this, but it does have this interior. And again, the same way, it has these sprung diaphragms. There's the Talgo truck again. I don't mind them, to be honest with you. But there are some downsides to Talgo truck, and I will show you that in just a moment. Let me tear into this diner. Is this the diner? Yeah, this is going to be the diner. Let me tear into this one for you. Pretty much have everything you need, except, again, I didn't look to see if they also re-released the baggage car that goes along with these. But we go right into the diner. Let's set this aside real quick. Get rid of that. Okay. So diner, again, nice small windows, interior with little seats. It is pretty easy to pop the roof off and place people into these. Here we go, there's a little bit better look at the end. So your diner's not too bad. Should be adequate. And again, I'm still always impressed. Walthers is one of the last companies that seems to be at least trying to make sure that the regular model railroader, the casual model railroader, can have really nice consists. And again, if you're like me, I have a tendency to judge things by the 3-foot rule. If it doesn't bother me at 3 foot or greater, it's fine. Now, don't get me wrong, I am impressed with the engineering and the build quality that goes into higher end models. How can you not love the fact that things have all kinds of piping and everything? But I don't look down there, and I don't look at that. And when the trains are running, of course, I don't really notice a lot of that anyway, because they're going by at speed. Here's another long window coach. And again, these are all the same model number. You have to make them different by putting the decal on yourself, which I won't do, because definitely at speed and definitely from 3 feet away, I will never notice whether there's a decal on there or not. And here is the baggage/lounge combine car. Pop this out of here for you. So you will have a chance to see all of these, and you can decide whether these will work for you. And, they still use these cars, even though a lot of them were built in the 50s, I think. So if not even earlier, but I think in the 50s for sure. Again, Talgo truck. Now, the one nice thing for sure about these trucks, and of course, again, a lot of people don't like the fact that they're Talgo with the coupler stuck on them, is they have a tendency to be freer rolling than some of their more premium trucks. Some Walthers trucks can be really sticky, and I've noticed these Talgo ones aren't that bad. In fact, they're pretty free rolling. So it's something to think about. If you're going to pull a really long train, you can generally pull a fairly long one with these main lines because of how free rolling the wheels are. Here's the small window coach. Pop that one out of here for you. There we go. Getting closer to it. All right, there we go. And you know, it's funny. It's like I just sort of wanted one of each, partly just so I could show you all, partly just so I could see for myself, because I have some of these in Via Rail, but I don't have any of these in Walthers Amtrak. So I thought I'd get them all just to see which ones I like better. And I don't know if in real life they ran all these together. My guess is they probably did, given how they had to piecemeal consists from all the other railroads in the country. Wouldn't surprise me if they did this kind of thing at all. And then here finally is the sleeper for you, the 10-6 sleeper. And I only got one of these because I'm gonna run it up front. I guess I'm gonna call it some sort of crew rest car or something like that. I don't know. This is gonna be supposed to be sort of a regional train, but I guess there's no reason that it wouldn't have a sleeper on it. This is the hallway side, which definitely if you look at some of my other videos, you'll see how the interior details really pale in comparison to some other cars, particularly European, and I will start showing you some Chinese cars. But as you can see, single color plastic, not a lot that's interesting, but at least they do have interiors, which is something that I think is very, very necessary. All right, so that's every one of them that came in this haul. So, all right, let me talk about some of the practicalities here. One of the things I wasn't sure about was whether these were re-releases or new. Like I said, I actually don't have any of these in Amtrak form, but here's the Combine, but I do have them in Via Rail. So I pulled out my Via Rail one to see, and I can confirm that these are exactly the same. My Via Rail one here is at least 5 years old, if not slightly older, I think. But I looked them over. The only thing I was thinking is maybe the tint on the glazing / glass is ever slightly so darker on the Amtrak ones, but looking at these, they're exactly the same. And I actually had forgotten that my Via Rail ones had Talgo trucks, and that's how little I kind of care about that thing. So they're definitely re-releases. Let's take a gander at the weight here, and I think these are 85-foot cars, something like that. 85-foot should be all around 8 ounces. And when I held them, they seemed a little light. Yeah, a little bit light. This is the dome. It's definitely the heaviest of them all. So 6 ounces, 170 grams for everyone else in the world. So that's a tad light. It's about 2 ounces under what at least the NMRA says they should be, but that's, you know, a rough guideline. I mean, they can offset that or ameliorate that just through the design of the crew. It's really light. So this is, I think, the lightest. Just sort of feeling it in my hand. It's the baggage lounge car. Yeah, 5'4". That's yeah. I think, you know, we're now running about 2.5 ounces under what the supposed ideal is. But we'll see when we run these how they respond. Again, observations, next lightest, 5.5. Oh man, these are a bit light. But again, let's wait to see the running set just to see. I mean, it may not make a difference. It may be well balanced, and the trucks and wheels may be. The small window coach is 5.4, so yeah, I see a trend. Make sure. It's funny, I always want to put it back because I'm like, man, are these really that light? But I can tell you by holding them, yes, I mean, they definitely feel fairly light. Let's put the diner on there, and I assume they've left all the pots and pans and stuff in the fridge. 5'4", so it's not particularly heavy, even with all the cooking utensils in there. Get this large window coach onto the scale, plop it down there. 5'4" again, so it looks like I'm seeing a pattern. It looks like we're going up to 6 down to 5'4". I think the next heaviest one is this sleeper here, and it feels about the same as the dome, and that's not surprising. It has a lot of stuff on the interior. Yeah, 5'9", so it's effectively the same weight as the dome. So a little bit light, but they may track just fine. Let's move on to the couplers, and I've noticed, particularly with the body-mounted Walthers passenger couplers, is they can run a little bit low and jiggly, which, of course, nobody truly wants low and jiggly, do they? All right, let's take a look. Looks like we're in pretty good shape. Right on where we need to be. So in that way, these are actually working better, I think, than our other couplers. The thing I did notice, though, is once in a while, maybe they'll get better as they age and they get looser, but they'll kind of not line up perfectly. So you have to kind of go in there and tap on them until they line up, and then you'll be able to couple them together a lot more easily. One thing about these couplers is they allow a little bit of a gap in between the cars. You can see the gap there. It's pretty noticeable, and there's really nothing you can do. You can't even really put in a much smaller coupler. Compare that, say, to the Walthers Proto couplers and how they couple together, and look how the diaphragms touch, and they're sprung, so they'll generally go around your curves without any problem. So that's something to consider. Here's the Talgo trucks in action, and you can see the gap, and you can decide whether this will be adequate for you or not. If not, you still get these. They actually do have the holes drilled in them if you want to replace them with the Walthers, kinetic coupler. So you can always do that at a later time if you want. Speaking of Walthers Proto, while we're at it, let's take a quick comparison. Now, they do make these coaches in Walthers Proto, so you'll have to go and find those on the used market if that's something you want to do. But a lot of these Walthers Proto have this real silver coating on there. If you look and it's brighter and it's deeper and it looks a little bit warmer, that's something you can decide if you must have. I don't know, to be honest. I don't mind just the regular paint job, so it's not that bothersome to me, I guess. And the interiors aren't much better in Walthers Proto, but often they are lit. Also, Walthers Proto have tendency to have a little bit better detailed undercarriage. Again, it's not like Rapido or anything like that, so I'm not sure if the extra cost is worth it there. Let me wrap this up for you, and you can figure out if these will meet your needs or not as a model railroader. Firstly, I think they actually look fine. They are lower priced passenger car, but if you think about it, they actually rival some of the prices you see for used stuff, even some Rereleases that people are asking for on eBay. So I think they're pretty decent, particularly if you like to judge things from 3 foot plus, which is what I like to do. Unlike some of Walthers' other offerings, I think these actually roll very well. I think they actually have very low rolling resistance. They're already fairly light to begin with. And even though they're Talgo trucks with the couplers on the end of the extensions, I think they actually stay coupled pretty well. Hadn't had any problems with them in my testing. Say what you will about the Talgo trucks, but the one thing they do allow is for very tight curve radius. In fact, I don't show it, but I actually got them around my tightest curves, which are 18. I don't know if I would suggest that, but they certainly take a tighter turn than my Protos, which if I tried to do that, I definitely have to install longer couplers. So yeah, there's a give and a take with the Talgo issue, but again, they stay coupled really well, which is not always the case with all Talgo trucks. Even if they are a bit light, which they are by about 2 or actually even a little bit more than 2 ounces according to recommendations, they actually track okay. In fact, this may be kind of good if you're just starting out and you have some equipment that's not designed as robustly. You can have plenty of these, and your lower cost locomotive should be able to pull a fair number of them. So nothing wrong with that. I think they're fine. Do you mind the gap? That's one thing you'll have to ask yourself. And again, I think for a lot of model railroaders, or maybe a fair number of model railroaders who are buying these things, they're relatively new. They have track that doesn't take up quite as much room. If you don't mind the gap, it certainly gives them the benefit of being able to run around pretty tight curves. And again, you can always either purchase or fabricate yourself the closer kinetic couplers if that's what you want to do in the future to upgrade these. You're going to be okay with some of the limitations surrounding these. You're going to be okay with the lack of particularly undercarriage detail. Are you okay with these not having lighting? No marking lights, no directional lights in the observation car, for instance. I'm going to be okay with that. And I think the answer for a lot of newer modelers and even a lot of more experienced modelers who have just determined what they like and don't like, and lighting isn't that big of a deal, they'll be fine, especially with the price difference, given the fact that it doesn't cost very much to add your own lights later. Okay, I think that's about all I have for you here. Frankly, I like these. And I think, once I have some time to get back onto my 3D printer, I'll probably slowly start replacing these Talgos. You don't have to replace them all at once. You can just sort of do them as you go. But but it's just not a big concern of mine, and eventually I'll just get them all replaced. But I think they look great, especially for the price. I have really no complaints about them, and from what I can tell, these are actually very prototypical also. The only thing I guess I don't like that I'm not going to do is I'm not going to bugger with the decals. They're just going to have to remain kind of unmarked like that, and they'll remain like that forever, but I don't really look at that stuff from 3 feet plus anyway. Like always, tell me what you think. I want to know. I really want to hear what you have to say. Do you have these things? Do you have an older run? Did you wait to get these? I'd love to know what you think, especially if you run them on your track or if you're thinking about running them on your track. If you like this video and you want to help me out, hey, it doesn't cost you anything to give me a like, leave a comment, as I mentioned earlier, and it would really help me out, and it doesn't cost you any more to subscribe. If you don't mind putting a little bit of money into me, I would really appreciate it if you would purchase one of the products from my sponsors. Those are linked in the description, as well as a coupon that will give you 10% off. And that can really add up if you're buying a lot of wheels, containers, that kind of thing. So until next time, I really appreciate you being here. Happy model railroading. Take care, stay safe, and hey, stay tuned for the running session. Talk to you later. Bye for now.